Good morning, everyone. Hope you're well. Happy Friday. Weekend's nearly upon us. Has anyone noticed the distinct lack of sort of official promotion for Joseph Parker, Zhilei Zhang? I mean, I know Zhang has done the rounds on the IFLs and all those sort of channels in the last couple of days, but in terms of official promotion, there's been pretty much none, hasn't there, up till this point? I mean, I don't know whether it's a fact or a case of they believe the headline is that big, they don't need to outlay any separate sort of cost in promoting Zhilei Zhang, Joseph Parker, and they haven't, have they? And maybe they're right. Maybe that fight on its own doesn't need any selling, and maybe they believe that the headline is so big they don't need to invest any money promoting essentially the undercard. So who knows? But there seems to be a sentiment going round that Zhilei Zhang is the third best heavyweight in the world. And a lot of people are basing this on his results over Hrgović and the two wins over Joe Joyce. Now, you're probably not going to agree with this. Very rarely am I agreed with, but this is just my personal opinion. So there you go. But to say that, to base the idea that you believe he's the third best heavyweight at the moment, currently, on those three wins, I kind of disagree in a way. Now, and this is meant in no way in disrespect to Joseph Joyce. He's a lovely guy and he's a great fella. But I did say for a long time, because of Joe Joyce's sort of style and his kind of technical shortcomings and the fact that he gets hit so often, and everyone sort of saw Joe Joyce's best attribute as the fact that he's good at taking shots. I always said Joe Joyce was an excellent waiting to happen. And that sort of certainly did prove so against Zhang with the two knockout losses. And moving on to Hrgović. Now, again, you're probably not going to disagree. Like I said, not many people agree with me that often. But I don't really rate Hrgović in the sense that I don't see Hrgović as being an elite level heavyweight. Again, when I look at him from a technical point of view, objectively, there are a lot of shortcomings for me. He's very slow. He's cumbersome. He's got slow feet. He doesn't move well at all. His hands at times are very slow. His shots are very laboured. He has displayed the ability in bursts to show some good hand speed, but for the majority of the time, he's quite cumbersome. He reminds me of an Andrew Gallotta, just not as effective. And if we look at Zhang, and I know stars make fights, so this is not an out fair comparison, but that was a very close fight. Certainly Zhang won the first half of the Hrgović fight, but kind of gave it away a bit in the second half, allowing Hrgović to come back in. But if we're going to base the idea or the hypnosis that Zhilei Zhang is the third best heavyweight in the world based on those three fights, to me, I don't really see that as justification for placing him there, because I kind of reiterate that, like I said, and no disrespect to Joe Joyce, but I saw it coming with Joe Joyce. And in terms of Hrgović, I don't really see him. I don't see Hrgović winning a version of the world heavyweight title against an elite level heavyweight. I don't believe Hrgović has the ability to be elite. And I know, you can say that Joseph Parker or Joe Joyce had the stoppage win against Joseph Parker, but stars do make fights. And if we kind of carry that over to the Zhilei Zhang, Joseph Parker fight, I see that as a kind of 50-50, but leaning slightly towards Zhilei Zhang on the basis that in Joe Joyce, who was kind of slow, got hit a lot, but wasn't mobile in any way, and Joe Joyce struggled. I mean, he had his successes in the fight, but essentially he lost, and he lost by stoppage. And Zhilei Zhang, I kind of, stylistically, there are ways in which he's similar, Zhilei Zhang, to Joe Joyce. He's very big, he's very long. He's a good boxer, but I wouldn't say Zhang is the most mobile, and sometimes he can have quick hands, but there are similarities between him and Joe Joyce, although I'm not saying they're identical because they're not. And if you see the way that Joseph Parker struggled against Zhang, against Joyce, you'd expect him to kind of struggle in areas against Zhang. So I would lean at this point towards Zhang in that fight. Although, you know, I think about that one day, and one day I lean towards Zhang, and I think about it one day I lean towards Parker. But at this point, I would edge towards Zhang, and I'll certainly do a detailed breakdown of that by the time the fight comes around. So yeah, but a distinct lack of promotion isn't there in that. But yeah, in terms of basing the idea that Zhang is the third best heavyweight at the moment based on those three fights, to me, that those results in those three fights don't justify placing him or having the opinion of him being the first best heavyweight on the planet. Again, just my opinion. I don't expect you to agree, because no one really agrees with me that often, so it won't be a surprise. I watched the G-Man video today, and G-Man's the bar in which we kind of, you know, he sets the bar, at G-Man. So shout out to G-Man. I don't know if you saw any of G-Man's interviews as well with the likes of Mark Tibbs and that, but G-Man's better at that than the majority of people who work for the larger, your IFLs, your boxing shows. I watched G-Man doing them interviews. I think, G-Man, you should be on Sky or DAZN or something like that, because he's great. Like he's the bar, isn't he? He sets the bar, he sets the level. G-Man does. But regardless, I digress a little bit there. But he made a fantastic point. Now, there's all this talk about Francis Ngannou being the hardest puncher in combat sports because he set a number on a probably a pounds per square inch punch machine or whatever. But he made the great point, because a lot of people throw that around. Oh, he's the hardest puncher in combat sports. It doesn't work like that. He's the hardest puncher that's been recorded in whatever scientific device they used to record that. But as G-Man said, you can take a journeyman. In fact, I'll go one further. You can take a guy on the street who's fought white collar or one of the traveller guys and put them on the same machine. And I'm sure there are guys out there, and as G-Man said, journeyman are the same, that you could get guys on there who will punch harder than Francis Ngannou. All right, so saying Francis Ngannou is the hardest puncher out there isn't correct, because you could get a journeyman, or you could get guys that have never boxed who don't even throw a punch correctly, put them on that machine, and they could probably come out with a higher result. So yeah, it was a really great point, because people hang on that a lot. Ngannou's the biggest puncher in combat sports. No, he's the biggest puncher that's been recorded on that machine on that day. All right, so let's not put too much into that, because G-Man made a fantastic point, which I wholeheartedly agree with. No, you could pick a journeyman guy on any given day, and he could maybe punch harder than Ngannou. It's a bit of a fallacy, that. So yeah, that was it. Quick video today. See you all soon. I'm out.